let's start right here. I want to talk about the pituitary and see if I can get us to the pancreas, because if I don't get to pancreas, I'll chuck it in my gastrointestinal section because I think it's going to be useful for you. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. On Monday.
It's right, yep.
So what is that?
Yeah, as I talked about it last time, it was a one-page description of your talk. So the important aspect here is that you're going to give me a question, right? And so you've had my midterm and you've seen the kind of questions I like. I don't want just like, what is X, fill in the blank, or define Y. I like questions. I know it can be tricky. They certainly take time to write, but I like questions that involve some critical thinking, or like taking knowledge and applying it to a situation and thinking more deeply about something. I like those kinds of questions. So if your question is more likely to be used if it's like that. So I want a question, and then the synopsis is a one-page outline of your talk that has any of the pertinent information that you delivered that would be required for the person to think through the question and answer the question. That's all it is. It's just like a one page so that I can disseminate it so the rest of the class has that, so they have something that they can study off of, that it has like the information that they need so that the answer to the question, they have enough background to be able to reasonably answer the question given critical thinking. Yeah.
Is this one per group or one?
Per group. I just need one per group. So I don't care who submits it, but I want them all on Monday so I can look through them and amend them and clean them up and package them into one thing and post them so everybody has it well in advance of when they need it. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Let's get to it because I do need to talk about pituitary a little bit. All right, here it is. I think I've shown you the anatomy of the pituitary gland a little bit. There is the anterior adenohypophysis and the posterior neurohypophysis. The adenohypophysis has this portal system in it, the vasculature that is where we have the direct secretion of pituitary hormones, and then the neurohypophysis, the posterior, releases ADH and oxytocin that are made in the hypothalamus but travel through the neurons, the axons of the neurons that go down from the hypothalamus into the neurohypophysis. Here's a better picture of that. One thing you'll notice here is that the blood-brain barrier, the pituitary gland, the hypophysis, is on the outside of that blood-brain barrier. So this whole portal system is the vasculature is in direct contact with the pituitary and allows for the endocrine function of the brain. So these neurons can directly release their hormones into the bloodstream. Is there any other point? I want to be efficient here. All right. So there's really three ways, and I kind of already said this, but there's three ways that the hypothalamus can control the endocrine function of the other hormones. So the reason I'm focusing on the hypothalamus and the pituitary is they're at the top of the pyramid. I've said this many times already. And whatever endocrine tissue that we may be considering is going to be, in one way or another, under the influence of the hypothalamus and the pituitary. So the three ways are either through the adenohypophysis, which is responsible for the direct secretion of regulatory hormones. These regulatory hormones are often called releasing hormones. And if I can get to the next slide, you'll see what that even looks like. And then there's the neurohypophysis, which is where we have ADH and oxytocin. The third method of control is sympathetic output from the hypothalamus. The preganglionic fibers travel out through the sympathetic chain And then finally, will synapse right in the suprarenal medulla, and this is where we get epinephrine and norepinephrine, which are also going to have endocrine function. So, oops. I don't know why that slide looks so bad. It's cut off. Anyways, adenohypophysis, neurohypophysis, and sympathetic outflow. Those are the three methods. That's a little better. All right, so this at least is an important concept that you need to get. The way this the pituitary gland works is there's going to be a releasing hormone of some sort that is being produced by the hypothalamus. That causes a release of hormone, some sort of hormone. That hormone hits a target organ, and that target organ may itself release a third hormone. So there's a cascade of hormones. There's a releasing hormone, there's the pituitary hormone, and then there's the downstream effector, the target organ, the endocrine organ hormone, which will have its actual effect on the effector tissue in the body, whatever that is. So you see the three steps in the cascade: releasing hormone, pituitary hormone, and then endocrine tissue organ hormone. So that's just a kind of an overview. I have three examples there. Let's skip that. And the last 30 seconds here, I'll just show this. I think it's important to see this. So you have a set of releasing hormones that cause the adenohypophysis to give rise to all of these hormones that travel systemically and then hit a target organ, which then has downstream hormones that they produce. Why? The slide is getting cut off. It's not on my computer. Anyways, that's the paradigm. That's the overall paradigm. I'm sorry that I couldn't go into it in more detail.